Hi, welcome to Riders of a Certain Age presents Conversations Beyond the Barn. I'm your host, Fran Severn. Each Tuesday, I chat with people whose lives center around horses in unusual, unexpected ways. These are people who create the richness and variety of the equine world with their fascinating careers, hobbies, and livelihoods. Their stories show their passion for horses and the equine world, and it is a treat for me to share them with you. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's Conversations Beyond the Barn. Hi, and welcome to Riders of a Certain Age presents Conversations Beyond the Barn. I'm your host, Fran Severn. Today we are talking about thoroughbred racehorses. There are few things as exciting as watching a field of horses coming down that final stretch. Every spectator feels the power and the passion of the horses and the jockeys, and it's great. But like every other career, racehorses can't race forever. Sometimes that's not their thing. They're not a winner, or they're injured. They're getting too old for the sport. And sadly, the fate of many horses for many years was not good. The thoroughbred racing industry gets a lot of criticism about a lot of things, but its record for caring for off-track racehorses is far better than other disciplines. That is large part due to a program called Turning for Home, and it is dedicated to finding a safe home and often new careers for off-the-track thoroughbreds. My guest today is Danielle Montgomery, sorry about that, the program administrator for Turning for Home. And welcome.
Hi, Fran. Hello, everybody.
Hi. So, briefly, what is Turning for Home?
Turning for Home is the Parks Racing's aftercare program. So we are literally based right here at the racetrack at Parks Racing in Bensalem, Pennsylvania. So we are charged with helping any of the horses that need to retire from racing to rehab, retrain, and rehome them.
Okay. How and why and when did it start? Just a little
Uh,
question.
Yeah, May of 2008 was our official, incorporation date. I think it started back in 2007 when the powers that be at the time decided that, where there's some spotlight on some horses. In fact, Michael Bellezzi was the executive director back then, and he told me that he saw, on the front of the New York Times, and it really wasn't even a thoroughbred, it was a quarter horse racehorse that was like broke down on the front of the New York Times. And he was like, this isn't going to bode well for racing. And, maybe we need to take a better look at this proactively to say, hey, are we really doing the right things for our horses? And, can we do better? And that's kind of where he started investigating what to do about an aftercare program. There were aftercare programs around before Turning for Home. In New York, they had the Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation, and they kind of had, a retirement program that kind of housed 100 horses. New Vocations was the original, the goat of racehorse retirement for standardbreds and thoroughbreds. So I think, the board at the time looked at all the different options and came up with what has lasted now. We are in our, 18th year now, and we've helped over 4,700, horses. So I think the program that they set up back then has shown to be effective.
What horses are included? Is there a screening or an application process?
Yes, any of the trainers that come to parks and, want to retire a horse for any reason, whether they're too slow or they're injured or they've just kind of run out their conditions and their time here. If they want to put the horse in, we have our offices right here on the grounds. So they can just come in, fill out an intake form, kind of go over, owner information, what's going on with the horse, what his, vet history is, and then we kind of triage them right here at the track. We get our vets that, know the horse. As soon as a horse comes in, I kind of send a text to their treating veterinarian and say, hey, what's going on with this horse? And then I'll go meet the horse and see what we see and, take, intake confirmation pictures just, to prove their identity, check microchips, that kind of stuff so that we have all the stuff necessary for the jockey club to retire their full papers so they can never race again. So basically, any owner or trainer that wants to retire a horse, they can come right to see us on the grounds, tell us what's going on with the horse, and we'll do all the paperwork for them to get the horse put into the program and successfully retired officially with the jockey club. The Thoroughbred Jockey Club does a really great job. They have an aftercare initiative They have new digital papers since 2019 where we can track, every owner of the thoroughbreds. So it's really a great um, program for all thoroughbreds. You can, if you are looking to provide aftercare for a horse, you can go right to the Jockey Club website and put your name on those full papers and say, hey, I'm willing to do aftercare for this horse. And then if the horse came into turning for home, when I looked up those digital papers, I could see your name right on there and give you a call and say, hey, are we really serious about providing aftercare for this horse? He came into our program. Or sometimes it's just the breeder saying, you know what, I just want to make sure that he has an option. And most of the time when we call through Turning for Home, they'll say, oh, as long as he's going through your program, we're happy. That's good. We just want to make sure that aftercare is provided. So we do all
So,
those different things right at the track level.
okay, so I'm going to ask you again about where horses go, but does sometimes somebody who has bred a horse says, "Hey, I'd like to have him back and be here, come back here, and if I can't, if he doesn't have a second career, he's got a good retirement home." Is that do a lot of the
Absolutely.
breeders want their babies back?
Absolutely. Grand Motion just stepped up for a horse that came to our program. Any of the horses that go through their program, they provide aftercare for, and they call. And like I said, a lot of times people will say, oh, if it's going through Turning for Him, that's fine, go. Grand Motion's one of those, breeders and pinhookers that just says, you know what, we have our own program, we'll take them back. So, so that horse isn't going to come into Turning for Home, although we will help retire the full papers, but then we'll send it right to their farm in Maryland, and they'll do the aftercare. So we work with a lot of different breeders, a lot of different owners. I get calls all the time. There was outreach last night about a horse that had moved that the breeder was following that had gotten claimed, and literally like there was 10 people, that went right from a social media post that tracked that horse and made sure that the current owner knows that that horse has a good place to leave, that it's a breeder that does retraining as well and is a good home. So yeah, no, there's a lot of breeders that track their horses. I have a whole list that, when horses come in, if they're through certain farms, I'll always call them and say, hey, your horse is in. And sometimes they'll want the horse back. Sometimes, obviously, especially breeders that have a big facility, and they might breed 20 horses a year, and you do that adding up over 3 years, 60 horses, they might not have room, and they might just be like, no, I just want to make sure he's okay. He's fine to go on. Or sometimes they'll just say, you know what, that one was a really special one, or he might be injured and they know that we might have a hard time placing him. They'll say, listen, I'll take him. So we do keep that constant conversation with our partners and with the breeders.
Okay, now you said you've protected over 4,000, almost 5,000 horses in years.
Yeah, we get like 350 a year now. Yes.
You were
So
telling me it used to be just one or two a week, and now it's like almost one a day.
it's one a day. When I walked in yesterday morning, I had 8 horses sitting here for intake. So, Monday's a big day. We race here at Parks. We race Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and sometimes on Thursday, and sometimes on Saturday for big days. But, usually, so they're racing. And then, over the weekend, people see how the horses came out of the races. The weekends are kind of quiet around here. So they'll kind of reassess their barn. So a lot of times when I walk in Monday morning, that's kind of where we'll get a bunch of horses in. And then throughout the week, we'll do all the vet work, the evaluations, and try to figure out where they're going to go.
So these horses have to be tied to parks. That they have to be
Yeah, we
tied
did.
somewhere to your racetrack. So
Yeah.
it's like if somebody raced at Pimlico, they couldn't show up and say, "Hey."
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, we do get a lot of horses that start out at other racetracks, but if they end up here, we take care of them. We'll take, any horse that's last races at parks, they can retire the horse here. If the horse is on the grounds, we have criteria it's posted on our website. And basically, if a trainer is stabled here 6 months of the year and the horse is in training here with them, then we'll take the horse. Because there are some horses that come to the track that, go through the motions and they're just not fast enough to make their first start. They still need a place to go. So we'll take, there's sometimes there's young horses that just don't make their first start. As long as they're training here on the grounds, we try to do the right thing by every horse. We just want to make sure that there's no horses that fall through the cracks, right? Because the big, sound, fancy horses, they can be easily sold off the racetrack. The better brood mares can be sold off the racetrack. And through the history of thoroughbred racing, there have been people good people that come and buy horse off the racetrack. Those aren't the horses we really worry about. We don't worry about the breeding horses. We don't worry about the fancy ones. But we're here to make sure that any of the horses that would fall through the cracks have a place to go. So we make sure that those are our priority as horses that maybe need surgery. Maybe they have a bone chip to remove or a condylar fracture that can be repaired. Or we even have one, it's in the barns right now, that she has a really bad throat. So bad that they actually had to put an emergency trach tube in her and sent her to the hospital. So we're just waiting for that throat to calm down. She has a really bad arytenoid chondritis. She's basically really sick to the point where her throat almost closed up. But, she's already been to the clinic for 3 days. They treated her. They did what they could. Now she's getting treatment here at the track, and her throat's doing better. It's calming down. She's going to be fine. She's going to have any kind of low-level career in the future. She's sound, she's beautiful, she's won a few races. She just got a really bad throat. So we'll wait for that to calm down. And the treating vet is taking care of it right now and cleaning it and all that. And then when they deem that she's past, the crucial part, then we'll send her to one of our farms and they'll finish out, the rehab and wait till her throat's, quieted down, give her some time out, turn her out, and then see what she wants to do in her future career.
This is something that you had mentioned when we were talking earlier. It's one thing to have somebody say, yes, I can take that horse and give it a retirement home or a retraining home. But often there are bills coming in before that moment. And me with my great heart would say, yeah, I'll give him a retirement home, but I can't afford to have him neutered. I can't, or cut. I can't afford the surgery. You said that Turning for Home kind of takes care of that and then provides some funding for the actual retirement or the new home. How does
Yes.
that work?
Yeah, well, we work with partner farms. We don't just, send any horse out to anybody with that money. So, Turning for Home, we get paid by a takeout, right? Per race takeout. And when it first started with the program, it was $10 per start per horse. Now we're up to $100 per start. I think we're probably the best funded program in the country. So every time a horse races, $100 comes towards their aftercare. On average, horses run about 4 to 8 times. I think our average here at Parks is about 8. So they would put about $800 into their retirement. And what that does is it's kind of like a social security system that any horse at Parks can get, the funding that they need. So, the horses that need surgery, we'll do the surgery, but we want to make sure that they're going to somebody that really knows how to take care of that, because it's not always easy. You have an athlete that's at the peak of their game. Usually when they get hurt, they're running, the fastest they've ever run. They're as fit as they've ever been, and now they're hurt. So now they get stall rest, and they're used to going out and training every day. So that letdown time, mentally, physically, it's not easy. It takes experience to know how to balance the horses and how to figure out, just like any trainer of any horse, right? They're all different. So you have to kind of figure out what works for each horse to keep them quiet. Some horses love a buddy, some in a quiet barn. It depends. So we deal with professionals that have seen this, that do this. Most of our partner farms are actually also breeders here in Pennsylvania and New Jersey that, they fold these horses. They've had their moms. They know this industry. They know these horses from the day they're born to the day they go to the racetrack to the day they come back. So all of our tougher cases go to those farms, and they've seen it. They've done it. They had the experience. They have the team. Not just our team through Turning for Home, but each farm has its own team, with their own vet and their own local clinic and their own shower and dentist and farrier. And like, it takes a real village to help each of these horses to figure them out and figure out what's best for them. So Turning for Home works, but yeah, we work with partner farms and we support those farms that can support the horses.
So that when they've gone through the training and go to the partner farm, then that farm is also given some funds to help take care of the horses.
Yeah, we'll do the initial, we do, like I said, since that pay raise, we'll do the castrations. We'll do any surgery that our veterinary team deems will make the horse have a better future. We don't just, throw money at him for no reason. We don't remove chips that aren't going to make a difference. You know what I mean? So if our team says, no, this horse will do much better if, there's a chip in the joint, or we've even had some weird things. We've had horses with tumors on their urethra, like just kind of crazy things. But, if the surgeons say, this is a pretty easy fix and this horse can go on to have a riding career, then, we'll do that. We'll take the tumor out. We do some enucleation. Sometimes the horses, get hit, obviously they're running really fast, mud flying, stuff like that. So sometimes even the best eye care, they might have to lose an eye. So they would retire from racing sometimes, and we would do those surgeries. And then they go to our farms, they finish out the rehab, according to, what our veterinarians advise. And then they start the retraining process. And that's what's so important because you can help all these horses, but they need a place to go. And so you have to make sure that you put the time in to match them up with people that can take them on to that second career.
That's my question. What kind of second career do they have?
Oh.
And if say I told you earlier, don't let me go on your website because they have all the horses up for sale at adoption. It was like, oh my God. But what kind of second careers do they go to? And what kind of people adopt or buy them? Because, they're not, you might say, oh, I love that, but he's so pretty, he might not be the right horse. And how do you match that up? Career, person, the whole bit to make sure that it is a successful second career.
I mean, it's not easy. Sometimes you try and then it doesn't work out and you have to try again. And what we do is, we do try really hard the first time. Everybody fills out an application and our trainers will get, kind of a basis for, you know, what kind of rider you are. And you'll come out and, if they're not sure, you'll come out with your trainer, ride that horse and they'll see how you ride and they'll try and put you together with a horse that fits your needs. So, first it's that conversation on the phone. And I mean, some of our trainers talk to people for hours and a million conversations and videos back and forth. And there's some people that, we might just say, you know what, I don't think a thoroughbred is for you at this time. I did an adoption event and this lady came up with her 8-year-old daughter who's taken 10 lessons and was like, I want this horse. This horse is fantastic. I'd love to bring it home and let my daughter grow with the horse. I just had to say no. I'm like, no, this isn't, even though this is a sweet, wonderful, is the kind of thoroughbred mare I could bring to an adoption event and she's going to love on everybody. She's not going to be for your 8-year-old that's taken, a month of lessons. Come see me, after you're trained, after you've graduated to walk, trot, canter, and you can handle more horses. So, we do try to do our due diligence and make sure that we match them up by feel first. Sometimes it works. Sometimes you think it's the best adoption in the world, and the horse just doesn't like the barn, and it just changes. It comes back. Sometimes we think these horses are absolutely perfect and they're rehab right, and something goes wrong. We're always here to take the horse back, and that's the only real way we can protect them because the horse could change a million times and a different rider, a different barn, a different career. So we just try to do our best to match them up in the beginning and then follow them along and always offer advice, help. But I will honestly say with the volume of horses that we get that come through right now, they go to our partner farms for the rehab part. And then we have like a whole secondary village kind of. It's a whole secondary group of trainers that are repeat adopters that take our horses when they're ready to, start a second career. And they'll actually put the training miles on and the show miles. And then their objective might be to sell it to their clients or for to the next person. So it seems to be that that's kind of the way it goes. Is a lot of times our horses go to the first trainer for rehab, and then we have repeat people that come back and take the horses on for different careers, and we kind of know them really well and we can trust them.
The first trainer might be the decompression and recovery time, and
Yes.
the second trainer is training for your new career time.
Yeah, they come out, they can see the horse when he's completed rehab. They know a little bit when they choose that horse for their clientele. They already know a little bit more about how he moves. They've ridden him or whatever. Or, sometimes we have such a good relationship that, my trainers will my partner farms will call somebody and say, hey, I have the horse that you're looking for. In fact, that just happened this morning. One of my barns has been looking for a small mare. That they can do things with. And it took me about a month to really get one that was ready to kind of go. She's small, she's sound, seems to have a level head on her shoulders. And so basically, as soon as I saw her this morning, I called that partner firm and said, hey, I might have your small mare here. Here's what I know about her. And then he'll look and he'll call. And if that one can go, it doesn't cost me as much of a stipend because I know that he already has like, an end buyer. And if it works out, it's good. But she's going to go to him at his farm, and spend a couple weeks there and decompress. And then that lady will go and meet her there. And if it doesn't work for her, the horse isn't lost. He's still at the partner farm. And if that lady doesn't, want the horse, even though that's the type that she was looking for, then it'll just be sold to somebody else. So it's not like we don't sell horses directly off the racetrack, or if you don't like it, the horse doesn't have a place to go. We always send the horses to a partner farm. So if something happens, if the horse doesn't work out for you, it always has a place to go.
Okay, now turning for home was an innovation. Has it been adopted elsewhere in this region, in the country? Is have other thoroughbred tracks said, yeah, this is a good thing and we should be part of this?
Yeah, I think most of the tracks in the country have an aftercare program now. There are a few like Penn National's New Start program and Second Call at Monmouth and Beyond the Wire in Merlin that were kind of based off of our stipend idea. So one of the differences with Turning for Home is the stipend that does go to help these horses go to the farm so that nobody's left behind. And, it's a good idea. We don't pay like board forever because, you have to have some responsibility to kind of move the horses onto that second home. We would go broke. If we had to take 350 horses a year and pay board on all of them, we could never do it. So the horses like that little filly I told you about, if I can get her off my books and into a home quickly, it doesn't cost the program very much money. And we can save and utilize our funding for where it's really needed for the horses that need more long-term care, that have specialty problems with like my filly coming through with the throat right now, or so we try to be really careful and balance out our placements on our horses so that we protect our funding so every horse can be helped. And I'm really proud to say that no horse has been left behind with our program. And yes, it's been replicated at a lot of different racetracks across the country.
That must make you feel, because you've been with the program from the beginning, haven't you? Or pretty close to it?
I've been here since 2013, so
Yeah.
I wasn't here at the very beginning. I was home with my family, but I'm really proud to have been here, for the last, what
That
is
must
that,
give you
going on 13 years.
such a feeling of satisfaction.
Every time you see a happy adoption, and we have a lot of adopters that text me pictures, or, I get to meet a lot of, I'm not firsthand with adoptions usually, but I do get to meet a lot of our adopters and they send me pictures and send me stuff. And that's kind of like the best feeling, especially when I know it was like a tough case, and you see the horse happy. Everybody loves the underdog stories, right? So when I see a horse that I knew was kind of tough, or maybe he was, and we've had horses that they said were dangerous here, and you see them, 6 months later following around a little girl like a puppy dog. And, like they always surprise you and shock you. And I love those kind of stories where, I'm shocked at like, wow, look how great this horse really is.
This is such a great story. It's so good to know that they're taken care of and that you guys are leading the way and making sure that that happens. Danielle, thank you so much. And I'm going to stay off that website because there's that one gray mare that really is tempting me. Hey, thank you so very, very much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Fran. And feel free to share our website and share our message because
Absolutely,
we
absolutely. I
we
have
really love
the
these horses and we want them to go on to good second careers, and we want people to love them as much as we love them here.
Okay, I've got the Riders of a Certain Age Facebook group, and I will be posting this on there, and of course the podcast and YouTube, and getting the word out for your organization and the program and the adoptions. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, Fran. And maybe I'll see you at Expo in Harrisburg soon.
Yes, yeah, Horse World Expo in Harrisburg. Yes,
Yeah, I'll
see you
be sure
there.
I find you. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, that's it for this week's episode of Riders of a Certain Age presents Conversations Beyond the Barn. If you enjoy it, subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Please leave a comment and suggestions for future shows, guests, topics, interesting equine activities. I'd love to hear about them, so would everybody else. And while you're at it, you can support the podcast by buymeacoffee.com/certain-age. Support Conversations Beyond the Barn. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next week.